Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna 'ilman wa 'amalan ya Rabbal Alameen, amma ba'd. So, as we continue our reading of the work of al-Imam al-Muhasibi rahimahullah ta'ala on the foundations of spirituality, today we're reading the quote that you see on the screen in front of you. The Imam, he says, maintain a constant spiritual retreat through the remembrance of God. Okay, let's start by exploring the idea of a spiritual retreat. In Ramadan, you guys have heard of a spiritual retreat in Ramadan? Like seclusion. What's that known in Arabic as? Anyone know? I'tikaf, right? That's in Ramadan. I'tikaf, where people choose to stay in the masjid for the last 10 nights, right? And that's the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was his practice. In the final year, he stayed 20 nights in the masjid. Now, the word used here by al-Imam al-Muhasibi is a little bit different. He uses the word khalwa. So khalwa means seclusion. Not necessarily in the masjid. And it means to be away from others. Notice he said a spiritual retreat. Maintain a constant spiritual retreat, which means it's not necessarily going to be a physical retreat. And so what are we talking about then? We're talking about the retreat of the spirit. In essence, for your heart to become detached from people, even for a brief moment of time during the day. Nowadays, people talk about like meditation. You take a few moments out and you meditate. In meditation, does anyone meditate? What do y'all do? Yeah. Anyone want to tell me, like, describe what they do in meditation? Yeah.
I just listen to like meditation music, so like soft wind, heavy rain.
Okay. So what are you doing though? Like that's what you're doing outwardly, but inwardly, what are you trying to do?
I'm just like laying my entire flat down on my like bed, and then I
No, you're still talking like outwardly. I'm saying inwardly, what are you trying to do?
trying to ease my anxiety.
Okay, yeah. So you're trying to calm yourself down. Sure. Someone had their hand up in the back.
Clear your thoughts.
Clear your thoughts. Yes. Okay. Yeah, right there.
Both clearing your thoughts, but also letting your thoughts come and like letting them go at the same time. So,
Okay, letting thoughts come and go. Okay. Yeah, you have your hand up.
usually like whenever I meditate, like I try to like relax my muscles, like try to like have this like inner sense of like calmness and release tension.
Okay. Calmness, release tension. Yeah.
Oftentimes I just like reflect on either what's happened in the day or like usually when I meditate it's because something happened that was like bigger.
Okay.
Just like reflecting on what happened.
Right. Reflection on something that happened during the day. Right. Nobody here? Yeah.
Breathing exercises.
Breathing exercises. What's the goal?
The breathing exercises help calming physiology.
Okay. Calming the physiology down. Yep. Anyone else? Yeah.
Yeah, I use it to like always get calm and like try to create awareness of what's going on in my environment.
Create awareness of what's going on. Could we summarize that? Would you guys agree if I summarize that as becoming present in the moment? Because oftentimes our minds will wander to the future and we'll start to like really be anxious about what's coming in the future, or our minds will ruminate about the past. And sometimes we just need to like slow down and just be present in the moment. Do you know what I'm saying? So what are you doing effectively? What you're doing is you're detaching from everything around you and you're grounding yourself and you're saying, I'm not going to worry about all these other things. In the moment, I'm going to focus on myself. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be present. Does that make sense? Now, that's a very secular idea compared to what we talk about when we say a spiritual retreat. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the idea is that you're not necessarily physically away from people, but your heart is no longer attached and focused on them. Your heart is focused inward. You're focused on yourself. Now, it's not as, esoteric as it sounds. Okay, why would anyone want to engage in a spiritual retreat? In khalwa, to seclude yourself. One is a physical, like I said. You might, and I think for a lot of us, we do physically seclude ourselves to engage in the spiritual retreat. You can actually do that amongst a crowd as well. Why do we do it? Why do people do it? Yeah. Sorry? Self growth. Okay, self growth. Yeah.
To avoid distractions.
To avoid distractions. This is key. Beautiful. We are secluding ourselves even for a little portion of the day. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this. It's a really great practice to have. Every single day, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to sit alone without your phone and to be present, to reflect. We'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. But essentially, which, like you said, it's a detachment from the things around you, from the things that could distract our focus. One. But a spiritual retreat also has a second component. I detach from everything around me, all the distractions. Why? So that I can engage with what? Yeah.
Allah.
I can engage with Allah, with God. I can engage with the truth, to really explore and really reflect on the truth with a capital T. Concepts of truth. Right? The goal is to not be carried away by the world. How many of you guys feel like you just don't have enough hours in the day? Show of hands. How many people feel that way? Not enough hours in the day. Yeah. It's like you're just running from one place to the next. And so when someone suggests that maybe you should take 5 to 10 minutes and just sit by yourself, it seems counterintuitive. It's like, I already have enough things to do. Why would I go and sit by myself and not do anything? The incredible point here is that these 10 minutes can actually incredibly transform the rest of your day and what you do, if you know how to reflect. Right? So this is really what we're going to talk about today, inshallah. Some of the benefits of seclusion and spiritual retreat. Okay. Let me hear from you guys. When you guys discussed with your new friends that you made, mashallah, what do you guys feel? You guys fans of solitude, being alone? No? Yeah.
Our group had a general consensus that we're always around people, so the time we have alone is very fresh.
Okay. This is good. So you're saying you're around people a lot, so you appreciate those moments when you're alone. What about being alone do you appreciate? Next person. Okay, we can do that. Yeah.
Me and our friend talked about when you're alone in sanctuary, that it prepares you for times when you'll actually be alone in life.
Mm.
Lose your parents or friends.
Okay, being alone, in solitude and seclusion prepares you for phases of life where you might have to be alone. Okay, mashallah. That's a deep one. Anyone else want to share? What do you guys feel about being alone? Yeah.
Well, my group and I discussed that when we were alone is kind of a vibe. So.
Okay, when you're alone, it's kind of a vibe. Tell me more. I need to get on this vibe, yo. Like. Yes, driving alone.
When you're giving time to yourself, you just feel it's for yourself.
What's going on while you're alone in the car? It's not like I need to know. I need to understand the underlying mechanisms here, man. Like, I totally agree with you, by the way. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you appreciate it because it gives you a chance to reflect. Right. Beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity to recharge because you're constantly surrounded by people. So when you take that step back, you're able to focus on yourself and your own mental health. And even with like spiritual stuff, when you're reading the Quran, you're able to kind of hone in on what you want to appreciate based off what you're reading.
Beautiful. Absolutely. To recharge because we're around people a lot. When we reflect on the Quran, we're able to really focus on what it's saying to us. Beautiful. Yes.
What if I said I'm never alone?
Mm-hmm. You just said it. Now tell me more.
I might feel like I'm alone,
Yes.
but those are the moments I connect with God. With
Beautiful.
God.
Beautiful.
I'm never alone.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, that's pretty much a big message of today. Absolutely. Yeah.
Also, when you're alone, you get to face your own demons because then whatever troubling thoughts you have, they'll now, because there's silence, they'll come up and then you can see more clearly your fears or the things that trouble you and then you're more aware of them.
Yes, when you're alone, a lot of the things that we've been avoiding come to the fore because there's nothing left to distract us from them. Now, I would argue that's the reason why some people would not like to be alone. They would not like to be alone for that very reason, is that you're then left, like you said, with your demons, as you said. And people don't want to do that. Right, okay. Yeah.
So it's an opportunity for you to kind of debrief and work on yourself, see what's going on in your life, and see how to tackle problems.
Yes, beautiful. So debrief. This sounds like at the end of the day. What about if you just woke up? Still?
Day running, see what's coming.
Plan what's coming, right? Think about your life at a broader level. Beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's also a sense of when you're alone, when you're in a group, sometimes other people are there, other you point shape who you are. But when you're alone, you just sincere with yourself. You're more likely to be sincere with yourself.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. And one of the scholars mentioned it. I'm gonna mention it as we go forward. He said, when you're alone, you're actually able to be more authentic with yourself because you don't have to perform. So often, when you're surrounded by people, you're busy performing for them to be accepted by them and liked by them. And when you're alone, you don't have to perform, so you can just be exactly who you are. And that can be a nice thing. I mean, it's definitely a liberating feeling, but it can also be a scary thing. Scary in the sense that you discover I'm not who I thought I was. Because in public, I always thought I'm this type of person. When I'm alone, I'm realizing I'm not actually that person. And there's this dissonance that you have to deal with. Yeah.
Just kind of like adding to that, I feel like for me, I don't like being alone that much. Like it's
Mhm.
kind of nice sometimes, but the scariest part for me is like having to make my own decisions. I feel like I go to my friends or my family or my community a lot whenever I have to make a decision about anything, and like being alone and having to make it just with myself is so scary. But I feel like it's also free. Like you don't have to take anyone else's input sometimes.
Right, right. It's a double, and that's what I mean, the balance. That's what I meant when I said that here we speak a lot about community and the power of community and the support we receive from community. But in solitude, it's the balancing act where no longer are you kind of, you know, chained and surrounded by community, so you're actually free to make decisions that you believe in. Yeah.
When you're alone, you get to like have time to do things quickly, like for yourself, like when you're like sad, I guess. So it's something that you miss at home, you don't like have time to do it.
Can you give me an example?
So say you miss like watering your plants, I guess.
Yes.
You have time to do that now.
Okay. Right. So the things that you weren't able to do because of being with other people, now you have a chance when you're alone. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to echo like the point that you had shared earlier about authenticity, because I think when I was talking to my Nikah friend, we were talking about how if you're able to like evoke like emotion in a way that you can't necessarily, I guess, maybe like socially like I don't know acceptable or like even like that you wouldn't even want, like in the sense that like when you're alone you can really like have that conversation. Well, like tell Allah what you want, and like make your du'as and like also like cry, like be emotional. You know what I mean? In a way that you can't be in person.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, there's a lot that we have to filter in public. Um, and so then in private, we're able to be more free to express them. Yes, yes. Okay, last one right here.
When you're alone, um, you're more mindful of beautiful things around you, so you can appreciate beauty much more.
Okay. Why? Why not with people?
Mm, because you're not being distracted.
Right? No, I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely. Um, I mean, it's one thing if you're surrounded by beautiful people in general, so there's beauty there, but yes, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's something that, I want to share with you the benefits of spiritual retreat as articulated by a great scholar by the name of the great Imam Ibn Ajiba, rahimahullah ta'ala, who wrote a commentary on the aphorisms of Ibn Ata'illah al-Iskandari, rahimahullah. And there, when he's speaking about being alone, khalwa, seclusion, he highlights 10 benefits. He says that 10 benefits to spending time alone. And so many of these, I'm telling you, like, we could benefit immensely from them. Number one, he says, when you're alone, you're protected from the sins of the tongue. You're protected from the sins of the tongue. How often do we backbite? When we're around other people. When we're with other people. When we're on the phone with other people. Sharing with them the information and news about something or someone. Then we're backbiting. Do you know what I'm saying? What are the challenges? Do you guys find it hard to be alone nowadays? How many of you would say it's hard to be alone? Like, I don't mean the experience, but to find. As a mother, she's like, yes, it's very hard to be alone, right? And as a father, I tell you, absolutely, I agree with you. That's why I love the early morning hours, but sometimes you're not even spared in the early morning. Ilyas? Not even the early morning sometime, eh? MashaAllah. So, but how many of you find it difficult to find time to be alone? Show of hands. What are the reasons? Why is it so hard? Yeah.
Well, I work a lot and I go to school, and then when I get home, my parents want to spend time with me, so then I have to kind of sit down with them. And
Right.
they're kind of insulted if I want to be alone. They're like, you're around other people all day. Why don't you want to be around us?
So are you the drive home person who just loves that 5 minutes driving home? Yes, yes, beautiful. Anyone else? Okay, yes, that's a lot of commitments you have throughout the day. Absolutely, yeah.
There's just so many easy ways to connect, so we're constantly like being bombarded. My friends were texting us or online things. So we can connect so easily. It's hard to put that away and just
Subhanallah. How many of you agree with that? It's just so easy to connect now. You could be alone physically, but you have your phone with you. Then you're connected with people. Right? Because a message comes in and you send a message, someone posts something, right? You're just constantly in communication with people. All right? What about how many of you wear watches that you receive messages on? So even if you don't have your phone, you got your watch on. And so you're just connected there. Like, what would it take for you to actually be disconnected from everybody? How many different gadgets would you need to put aside? Maybe shut the WhatsApp off on your laptop? You know what I'm talking about? Because, yeah, I'm going to sit down to do work, and then you have WhatsApp on your laptop. Right? So then, how are you disconnected? What does it take to be disconnected nowadays? It's really hard when there's so many ways to connect, as you mentioned. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just add to that. Some people when they feel alone, they feel lonely, so they don't want to be alone.
Okay, they don't want to do it, right? But if someone wants to do it and they find it difficult, what are any other reasons that you guys want to talk about? Those are the main ones? Yeah.
I was just gonna say, probably with like our generation a little bit more, our attention span is very short now. So even if you're alone for a couple seconds or like minutes, you're like, oh, like there's nothing to do. Let me go on TikTok or like let me do this. So again, even if you're not alone, you're like distracting yourself, so you're not giving yourself a chance. Even if you're not actively talking.
That's beautiful. Absolutely, right? Let's say you put your phone outside the room and you put your watch outside the room, laptop, everything that you could connect, digitally, you put it outside. You shut the door. Now you're physically in seclusion. In terms of your heart, are you in seclusion? How many of you would just start cleaning your room? It's like, okay, I'm gonna start cleaning my room. How many of you would pick up the book that you've promised yourself to read that's sitting there, now you're gonna pick it up and read? How many of you start playing with your cat? Do you get what I'm saying? And so it's just hard to just sit down and just be present alone with our thoughts, with our spirit. Is very hard. And so backbiting, how hard is it to avoid backbiting? Because in the past, you'd have to be with someone. Now you don't even have to be with them. You just call. You just FaceTime. Right? You just send a message. It's all backbiting. That's all considered backbiting. If you send a message and you're speaking about somebody in a way that they would not like, that's backbiting, even if it's a message. Yeah.
I also heard that even if you're say something about somebody that's true, that's also considered backbiting.
No, that's definitely backbiting. And if it's not true, then it's slander. Yeah, if it's not true, then it's slander. So that's worse. Right? At least it's true. It's like it's true. It's not good. You shouldn't say it, but it's true at least. Here it's not true, and you're saying it's like double slander. It's worse. Absolutely. And so when you're alone, truly disconnected, truly secluded, you protect yourself from the sins of your tongue and the sins of other people's tongues. You ever thought about that? Let's say you leave your room and say, I'm not going to backbite about anybody. But then you meet that one friend who's always got the tea all the time, right? And you cannot even have a conversation without them sharing news about someone. What do? It's hard. Being in seclusion protects you from that. Another, subhanAllah, powerful one is when you're in seclusion, you protect your eyes. What do you protect your eyes from? I know a lot of us are going to go immediately to thinking what? To thinking about haram that we're not supposed to look at. And that's definitely the case. But what about also looking at the flaws of other people in general? You see somebody and you, in your head, pass a judgment on them. You look down on them for something. You discriminate against them for something because you just look at them a certain way, right? You're protected from that. Number 3, he says, and this is to your point, he says it's protection from dissemblance and hypocrisy. Dissemblance means you have to fake a certain behavior. When you're alone, you don't have to force yourself to be someone other than yourself. So that's freeing. It feels good to we say, you ever heard the expression go home and unwind? That's a really interesting expression. Who wound you up? No. Think about that, right? We unwind. Who wound you up? And it's like life wound you up, right? Like just the day-to-day different things you had to do, the different people you met. How many of you have people in your life that you have to meet every day? And they factor into winding you up. How many of you? Right? So-and-so from HR. Right? Wind you up and you're going home stressed now. Right? That email that comes through. Or that meeting that could have been an email. Right? These types of things wind you up. And so you have to, be a certain person out in public. And you come home and you can unwind. You can be yourself. Do you get what I'm saying? If someone tried to FaceTime you at that time, what would happen? No one can see me in this state. Right? Sitting on the couch, right? Just out. Because you're just unwinding. Who are you when you're alone? That's why the scholars would say, you know your true self when you're alone. And this is a scary thought. Because if in public we are someone, and in private we're someone very different, that's hypocrisy. And that's something to be worried about. And that's where we hear a lot of stories that shock us about someone who the whole community thought that they were an amazing person, and then you find out at home that they were a terrible person. Do you get what I'm saying? That happens when people have a lack of alignment between their public and private life. Yeah.
What do you call somebody that's better when they're alone?
Someone that's better when they're alone. Well, that's someone who's easily influenced. And they have to learn to not be so influenced by other people. Because the assumption I'm making here is, when they mix with others, those people rub off on them, as a result of which they're not able to be that better self that they are at home. And this can be the case for some people, right? Right? You ever seen a kid, when you talk to that kid alone, the kid is, mashallah, like they listen, they're a good kid. You put him in a group with like a bunch of his friends or her friends, and suddenly you see attitude that you've never seen before. And you're like, where did this come from? Right? So alone they're better, but they're easily influenced. So when they go out and they interact with people, they feel they have to behave a certain way and talk a certain way and act a certain way. And many of us can ask ourselves, are we still in that phase where that's who we are? And that's why as you go forward in life, it's going to become increasingly important that your life is aligned in terms of values. The things you do, the people you surround yourself with, all of these things, if they're not aligned in terms of values, you're going to really struggle with certain aspects of your life. And I think that's one of the most important things for people to really focus on as they grow up. Because when you're younger, of course, you're going to have certain values, but you're going to have to keep the people around you happy. So you kind of are constantly fluctuating between different versions of you. How many of you in high school will admit that you were quite different than you were at home? Anyone want to admit it? Really? Thanks to the 4 or 5 honest people. Well, the rest of y'all angels? Are you not ready to admit that we're fake? In high school, how many people let's be real, right? At school we act a certain way, and then we come home and we're someone usually quite different. We're usually quite different, especially if you come from, an ethnic background where, mashallah, you're not allowed to be that same person at home that you are at school. Do you get what I'm saying here? So, by being alone, you're able to really examine who you are. Moments of brutal honesty with yourself. Scary idea, scary thing at times, but necessary. But extremely necessary. Okay. The 4th thing he says, it helps in focusing on the hereafter and being content with Allah's blessings. This is where I would say about that point about beauty. Right? Because when we're around other people, we can end up focusing on their blessings. You ever find yourself doing that? Surrounded by people, so you notice what they have. You notice what they're driving, what they're wearing, where they're going. And so you're noticing all these things, and you're losing sight of what you have. And when you're alone, you have that moment to just focus on what you're blessed with and say, Alhamdulillah. It may not be that the people around us lead us to being ungrateful to God. That's why it's important to really look at who you surround yourself with. Are they people that inspire you to gratitude? Inspire you to appreciate what you have in your life? Inspire you towards valuing the things that are truly valuable? Or are they people that you're in constant competition with? Do you know what I'm talking about? They get something and you want to get something better, and it's like a constant competition of who can have something nicer than the other person. And those are not true friends. Those are not true friends. You live in a constant state of competition. Isn't it beautiful when you have a friend who's just happy for your success? You get something and they're not trying to compete with you and say, like, one up you. They're just like, I'm so happy for you. MashaAllah, you deserve it. And you feel like, man, alhamdulillah. You don't have to worry about like jealousy, envy, or anything. Right? Those are good, true friends. Now you can be grateful for what you have. Being alone protects from unhealthy companionship. And there's a famous hadith from the Prophet ﷺ that I'm sure many of us are familiar with, where he said, the parable of good and bad company is that of a person who sells musk and that of a person who does what? A blacksmith, someone who works with iron, surrounded by smoke and dust all the time. He says the seller of musk will give you perfume and you'll buy some. Or at the very least, just being around them, your clothes will start to smell good. As for the person working in a dusty environment surrounded by smoke, either they'll burn your clothes, or when you leave, people will be like, yo, like, do you smoke? Right? You will smell bad. That's the idea of the people that you surround yourself with. And at this stage in life, this might be one of the most important things that you can focus on right now, is who do you surround yourself with? Because they will impact what you value, where you go, what you do, what your goals are, how you think about yourself. And for all of us, that becomes extremely important to go back and sit alone and say, wait, do the people around me help me grow? Am I able to be myself around them? Or do I constantly have to shape-shift to make these people happy? And if you have to shape-shift around people, they don't deserve your company. Really, they don't deserve your company. Why should you have to shape-shift for people? Right? Why can we not accept people as they are? And if they can't accept you as you are, then maybe they're not your people. Right? May it not be that our hearts yearn to grow, but due to not having surrounded ourselves with good people that we hold ourselves back from growth. That would be a great tragedy. That Allah places within our hearts that longing and desire to grow and to improve, but because we weren't careful about who's around us, we end up letting that desire fade away without making the changes necessary. That's part of what we want to do here at Wijhah, is give people an opportunity, man. Like, come here, maybe you have friends, and we're not going to call them bad people. We're going to say that they're people who are struggling. Maybe they don't know who they are. Maybe, they haven't really realized the seriousness of life. And so they're kind of headed in a different direction. And, we want them to come. We want them to change and grow. And maybe you're that one friend who does want to grow in that friend circle. And for such people, often they're like, where do I go? Where do I find good friends? Right? How many of you growing up would go to the masjid and not find those friends that you wanted? You'd go there and you wouldn't find those people. Because maybe the younger generation, people of your age, just weren't there. They didn't come to the masjid like your father or your mother made you come to the masjid. So then you're kind of stuck. In school, you're probably a minority. Most of your friends likely were not Muslim. So then what do? That's what this is about here at Wijhah, is to offer people opportunities to meet new people. And sometimes we force you to meet new people, right? Like, get up and go sit with someone new, right? And that's for that reason. So that we really build that circle around us that will support us. Okay, number 6. It frees up time for worship. Oh, this is so big. Being alone and disconnected. How many of you have performed? And don't put your hands up, actually. How many of you, and you can ask yourself this question, how many of you have performed some buzzer beater salats because you were on your phone and just doom scrolling? You're like, I know it's prayer time. What's this next reel? Or this next TikTok? Okay, and then, okay, 10 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, I gotta go now. Like a buzzer beater. You just got that last salam in right before, The clock ticked 4:59 or whatever it was. You know what I'm talking about? How many times are distracted? Or we're studying. Right, we're studying, mashallah. Like actually studying. And we're trying to get that work in, and then what? No, I still got 20 minutes. I got 10 minutes. No, not 5 minutes. Okay, I gotta go now. And we get up and we go pray. It distracts us from worship. All these things around us, the people around us. We're just having so much fun. We feel awkward getting up from the friend circle to go pray. When you're alone and you want to go pray, do you have to worry about people, what they're thinking? No. You just get up and you go pray. Isn't that beautiful? And so to be alone frees you up for worship. In it, number 7, in it is found the sweetness of obedience. Who said that? Someone said it. Sincere. Was that you? Sincerity in your worship. See, sometimes you're worshiping and you kind of know in the back of your mind you're doing it for the people around you. Right? When you're alone, why are you worshiping? It can only be for God alone. And when you're sincere with God, God is sincere, and He will bless you with sweetness in that worship. Because He sees that sincerity in you. Right? Number 8, it gives rest to the heart. Have you noticed that when you step out, someone was saying it here, I think, that when you're outside with other people, you're bombarded by stimuli. Someone's sharing some new information. There's like a billboard here. You're walking. There's like stuff to look at. There's just constant, stimulation of your senses. In that moment of being alone, you can have clarity of thought, clarity of heart. The chaos kind of subsides, and you can be at peace in that moment. And that's why, subhanAllah, it can be so hard to make decisions surrounded by people, because there's so much going on. When you're alone, you can actually get some clarity. Because you can be honest with yourself. And you don't have so much going on. Y'all ever done that? Just give me some time to think. Y'all know what I'm talking about? People are trying to get you to make a decision. You're like, just give me 10 minutes to think. And you want to go alone in a room or somewhere and sit by yourself and just think about it. In case y'all don't know, this side does it a lot, I'm telling you right now. That's what this side does, right? Is we just need 10 minutes to think, right? Not talk about it, think about it. Just clarity. And it's subhanAllah, it's profound in the way people can be different in this regard. Some people want to talk it through. That's how they gain clarity. Some people, they just want that moment or those moments to be alone so that they can get clarity in their own heads. There's too much going on. Do you understand? And we have to appreciate these differences. We have to appreciate that sometimes people just want to talk it through. It can be very hard for us to understand this point. Why? Because we will sit for 10 minutes, try to gain clarity, get to a final decision, and be like, okay, I'm ready now. This is my final decision. And we come and we present our final decision. Meanwhile, you'll have people who will talk it through. So as they're talking it through, they'll contradict themselves because they haven't reached a final conclusion. They're exploring it. So they'll be like, well, what about this? You'll be like, you just contradicted yourself. And you're getting frustrated because it's like, give me the final conclusion. That's how they function. That's how they think. They think it through whilst talking. People are different. And to appreciate these differences is a very important thing. Number 9, it protects the soul from the harms of society. And number 10, the greatest objective and benefit of spiritual retreat is it facilitates reflection and contemplation. Reflection and contemplation. All right, inshallah, we'll stop here. In case you're saying, hey, wait, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about reflection and contemplation. I'll let you know, inshallah.